Perfect. Yan. Nag-play na yan kanina, Ms. Jobs. Ms. Juvie?
Yes?
Nag-play na po siya kanina, nawala. Click ka po ulit ng isa, yung screen. Yung audio.
Meron na?
Yan, meron na. Okay, perfect. Ano, wala.
Sir Jihad, Tyrone is in the waiting room.
Got it. Thank you.
Jihad, may sounds pa?
Ms. Jules, I think this is okay na po. We have our participants na.
Okay na?
So, yeah.
Saan?
We have our participants here.
May sounds pa ako. Wala na kasi sa akin eh.
Amid the darkness, look on the bright side. These days, it takes a special kind of courage to plan for tomorrow. One daring to take it a step further by reimagining the future. Through its Clean Future initiative, Unilever aims to provide people with greener cleaning and laundry products. Its main goal, to eliminate fossil fuels from Unilever's cleaning products by the year 2030.
Clean Future is a landmark initiative that builds on the urgency for global and local climate action.
Unilever is investing €1 billion to drive the shift from fossil fuel-derived chemicals, create biodegradable and water-efficient products, and support the reduction of virgin plastic use by half by 2025. Unilever Philippines leads the plastic collection program Mrs. Walastik and continues to roll out packaging innovations such as 100% recycled bottles. The company is deliberately moving away from the fossil fuel economy and hopes that other manufacturers and partners across the supply chain adopt this direction. On the path towards sustainability, Unilever Philippines has also completed its switch to renewable energy from its factories and has partnered with thousands of smallholder farmers in the country to advance sustainable sourcing.
Unilever's home care brands in the Philippines have made great strides in making sustainable living commonplace to Filipinos. With all these moving at speed, we can truly achieve a clean future.
I'm Ria Tanwat Potrillo, CNN Philippines.
Welcome to the Healthcare Information Management Association of the Philippines First Career Seminar 2021. To host today's event is a registered nurse both in the Philippines and in the US, and currently a director for service delivery at Conduit Business Services Philippines. She's a homegrown talent of the Philippine healthcare BPO industry with 17 years of experience that spans various capabilities in business operations, clinical quality management, clinical training, licensing, project management, business development, and sales. Please welcome Ms. Kathy Gutierrez. Kathy?
Thank you, Bachi. I'm very happy to be here to be hosting this event with you today. And this is such a milestone event. So allow me to welcome everybody to the Healthcare Information Management Association of the Philippines First Career Seminar 2021 in partnership with the Department of Information Communications Technology, or DICT, entitled Your Career Starts Here. And we are being streamed live today by DICT. So we have a very full discussion this morning, so let's jump right into introducing the chairwoman of HIMAP's Capability Development, to officially open today's event. She is Alorica Asia's Chief of Staff, a role that spans 18 years of leading operations at Alorica. Her tutelage stretches to help oversee around 40,000 workforce, which continues to grow ceaselessly in all sites across the Philippines, from Metro Manila all the way up to Ilocos, and traversing to the southern city of Davao. She also helps support the other regions and countries such as Japan, China, and India. She started as a pioneer member of a healthcare account in 2003, built her career with conscientiousness, consistency, and sheer talent. Never resting on her laurels, she continued to rise, defying the odds while unconsciously setting the bar up a notch. To no surprise, she took on the lead role as a trainer in accent neutralization, leaped through as operations manager with superb vendor ratings. Dear attendees, please welcome one of HIMAP's Board of Trustees, Ms. Sarah McCann de Silva.
Thank you so much, Kathy. Good morning, everyone, and hope you're having a great start to the week so far. Thank you all so much for being at HIMAP and DICT's first of 2 career seminars this 2021. I'm really excited about today's program, and I'm hoping you share the same enthusiasm as myself, because we have an agenda packed with plenty for you to take away from, where you're going to learn more about the healthcare information management industry, as well as insights from our business leaders and experts, then hearing directly from talented leaders who've grown up within the industry too. So of course, today is also about helping equip you with the vast opportunities and careers in healthcare information management. So don't be shy and please engage with us through the Q&A, because we'd love to hear from you. So I won't hold this up anymore because we have loads to tackle today. So to everyone here, welcome to the Healthcare Information Management Association of the Philippines and DICT's Career Seminar, because your career starts here.
Thank you, Sarah. And we're honored here today because we have the Director of the ICT Industry Development Bureau of the Department of Information and Communications Technology, DICT. In her 20 years in public service, Ms. Delphine is so passionate about creating positive changes in the lives of Filipinos, most especially in the countryside, through the ICT industry development programs. These include bringing digital jobs related to the information technology business process management, or IT/BPM sector, to cities outside Metro Manila, and capacitating the rural talents to get into online freelancing. She also leads the DICT initiatives to move the Philippines towards becoming the global hub for high-value IT/BPM services. She was recognized and awarded by the National ICT Confederation of the Philippines, NICP, as a countryside development champion for her dedicated work in implementing initiatives that promote countryside development. And very recently, the DICT, through her bureau, in partnership with the Information Technology Business Process Association of the Philippines, or IBPAP, launched the Digital Cities 2025, which is one of the flagship programs of DICT in the new normal. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to Director Embelu Delphine.
Thank you, Kathy. Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday to all. To the President of HIMAP, Mr. Roger Salazar Jr., the HIMAP Board of Trustees and Officers, NICP President Michael Chulim, distinguished speakers, our official event partner for today, Unilever Philippines, our partners from the different ICT organizations, guests, colleagues, friends, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is with great pleasure that I welcome everyone in the first of a series of career webinars for the healthcare information management services sector. Thank you to all our guest speakers and participants who have taken some time out of their busy schedules in joining us here for this morning's webinar, most especially to our job seekers and potential joiners in the HIMS industry. This career webinar intends to accommodate the graduates in the healthcare allied courses and career shifters to learn about the qualities that healthcare leaders and other professionals value in the workplace today. Furthermore, this webinar aims for the participants to understand how healthcare professionals see new technologies impact the daily work both today and in the future. We will hear how healthcare leaders and other professionals define the future of work in healthcare, and most importantly, a career opportunity in the HIMS industry. We at the Department of Information and Communications Technology aim to develop and flourish the IT BPM sector through innovations and constant development of the ICT sector that will ensure a sustainable growth of the Philippine ICT-enabled industries to guarantee the creation of jobs in our country. Through our bureau, the ICT Industry Development Bureau, the DICT's mandate also includes ensuring a sustainable growth of the IT BPM industry by equipping our workforce with the necessary skills needed to boost their competence. The Philippine HIMS industry is one of the biggest contributors to the local IT BPM industry in terms of employment and revenue, and continues to display its resilience as one of the Philippine economy's pillars. Last year, when all industries were not spared by the pandemic, it posted a 3% increase in terms of revenues and headcount. The HIMS industry is one sector that grew last year, and this is an opportunity for people to be provided with a wide array of career options and at the same time give rise to the investments that will highly benefit the economy of our country. Currently, the DICT is implementing programs to support the ICT industry. Our bureau, the IIDB, has consistently partnered with the different IT BPM associations, including the Healthcare Information Management Association of the Philippines, or HIMAP, which is the main organizer of today's event, and the promotion of the industry to sustain its rapid growth by working to ensure an enduring supply of high-quality labor, supporting service innovation, and providing country visibility. And today's webinar is one of the activities identified to reach the potential talent pool. This activity will surely support the growth of the HIMS industry and be a venue to encourage and increase the interest of talents to develop a career in the industry. Today's webinar will provide the viewers with the most accurate information about the latest progressions, opportunities, and qualifications needed in the industry. It is intended to access the potential talent pool as we want to ensure a continuous supply of high-quality workforce. We hope that this activity will make you consider a career or a career shift towards the HIMS industry. As the DICT also realizes the importance of human capital development in achieving the industry goals, one strategy identified is talent development in the IT BPM industry, which is targeted across its subsectors, including HIMS. Together with our partners, the DICT embarks on a national upskilling and reskilling program, which aims to train thousands of scholars in various priority areas needed by the subsectors. Today, we have invited special guests from the different HIMS companies who will share their experiences and expertise throughout their years working in the field. They will also be discussing the career opportunities available and their vision of the future in the HIMS industry. We hope that this webinar will significantly benefit graduates and career shifters in gaining confidence and acquiring new insights about the HIMS industry to help them make informed choices with the career path and opportunities you would like to try out in the future. Hopefully, this webinar will entice you to pursue a future career in the sector. I am sure that this field will be a very worthwhile experience for those who are interested in building their careers in this sector. Rest assured, the DICT will continuously conduct webinars such as this one, trainings, and other specialized programs to address the current challenges, upskill the existing workforce, and prepare and capacitate the potential industry workforce. Once again, thank you to our dear HIMAP officers. Ms. Beng, I forget to mention your name. Of course, Ms. Bachi, the ED, the very hardworking ED, and everyone. Thank you, and I wish everyone a very productive day ahead. Back to you, Kathy.
Thank you, Director Delphine. And on behalf of our sector, we continuously say thank you to your support, to your office, and to the entire DICT for always continuing to support the growth of our sector. So thank you very much. Now, to give us an overview of the healthcare information management industry is the president of the Health Information Management Association of the Philippines, or HIMAP, Mr. Roger Salazar Jr. Roger has over 30 plus years of experience in various industries such as manufacturing, food processing, and export agriculture, working not only in the Philippines, but in Indonesia, Latin America, and the United States. In addition, he graduated with a degree in economics in the University of the Philippines and finished his master's in business administration in the Wharton School, University of Pennsylvania. Please welcome our president, Mr. Roger Salazar Jr.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Kathy, thank you very much for the introduction. I'd like to acknowledge Director Emmy of the DICT and the DICT for helping HIMAP have this session today. I'm also thankful and grateful to the HIMAP Capability and Development Committee led by Sarah and Beng, Carlo, to our speakers, our panelists, and our moderators. I want to say thank you very much for spending time with us today. And of course, our member companies who's always there to support us and help us pursue our agenda for healthcare BPO in the Philippines. So my thanks and good morning to everyone. Wanted to take the opportunity to, at the beginning of the session, we had a chance to look at some of the questions that were sent to us in advance. And I think I had to organize my deck in a way that it would address those questions. So hopefully it would cover a lot of that. So maybe we can go straight to the deck. Thank you. So maybe we can move to the next slide, please. So this deck gives you a picture of what the HIMAP and the Philippine IT BPM industry. You can see first and foremost, HIMAP is an association of healthcare business process outsourcing companies, their vendors, and many different support organizations that help pursue the development and growth of healthcare BPO in the Philippines. It's a nonprofit organization and association. You approximately have about 60 plus members, covering close to about 100,000 out of the 140,000 FTEs or full-time equivalent employees that are working for us in the Philippines, that are directly working in the Philippine healthcare BPO sector. We are part of a larger organization called the IBPAP, or as everyone knows, IBPAP is the Philippine Business Process Association of the Philippines, together with other member companies. And we are a part of that. We're very privileged and proud that we are a part of that group. As you can see on my left chart here, you can see that the Philippine IT BPM industry grew by about 1.8% in 2020 in terms of headcount and 1.4% in terms of revenue, despite the Philippine economy contracting by about 9.5%. In the Philippine health information management sector, or the healthcare BPO, we saw a 3% growth. We added approximately about 4,000 new employees to our sector and added a little more than $100 million in revenue, and it continues to grow. Okay. Next slide, please. In 2021, we are looking at approximately a 5.5 or 5% growth for the IT BPM industry. There are a lot of opportunity areas, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But in our healthcare IT BPM sector, we surveyed most of our players, most of our members. They were looking at a growth of approximately between 5 to 10%. So as you can see, this is an industry that is not only resilient, it's an industry that's agile, and at the same time, it grew during what could be a very difficult period for many traditional industries. It's an industry that continuously looks for ways and means to improve, to look at new models. So if you're very interested in a very dynamic, a very responsive, a very how do you say, resilient industry, and the IT BPM industry, specifically the healthcare industry, is one that continues to grow. In fact, the healthcare sector is one of the highest growing segments of the IT BPM industry. Next slide, please. So when you look at 2021, there are a lot of factors we're looking at that will, fuel the growth. As I mentioned, we're looking at the growth of about 5 to 10% for the HIMS industry. These are the different factors that will influence the growth. As you can see, there is and always will be continuing pressures for costs and margins. And as you know, many of the developed countries are already preparing for the rebound of their economies as they approach herd immunity or population immunity with the rollout of the COVID vaccine in their countries. As a result of that, many are looking at new models that have never been developed before. They're looking at new models now of working, sending more work offshore or outsourcing more work as a result of that, and realizing that working from home is one of the new models that we'll really look at, that we would look at. In fact, our industry is also one that's looking at that on a more sustainable basis. A few factors here that are looking at the growth. First of all, the COVID-19 vaccine rollout. As we all know, in the Philippines, we've started the rollout several months back, but that will continue to build up as we expect to see more vaccines coming in the month of June and onwards. As we all know, we've been trying to push for priority group A4 for our industry, and I think we most likely will get that as they prepare to inoculate priority group A4, of which we are pushing to be a member of the BPO industry, starting in the month of June. We understand there are a few cities that have already started to do so, but that will continue to grow and reach most of the population, and not just the NCR plus, but also the metro cities and all the other parts of the Philippines. These are the different factors, and we'll talk a little bit more about the next generation talent, because that seems to be a critical part that really we need to work on, we need to develop, and we really need to pursue. We bring up the opportunities, at the same time the challenges that come with that. We're looking for a more digital labor force. We're looking at talent and growth. We are very we've built a name for the Philippines in terms of healthcare, with all the nurses and different doctors, physicians, even pharmacists that we have exported or been part of the overseas Filipino workers. It has really built the reputation in the different countries and the markets. So that will continue, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. We also learned more about the CREATE bill that has been working on Philippine competitiveness, and also looking at BCP. Many countries are looking to offshore their work, but they're also concerned about BCP. We understand with what's happening in India, especially with the COVID-19 pressures that the country is experiencing, many are looking at rebalancing their portfolio as far as risk and exposure, and looking at the Philippines as an opportunity area. And hence, the infrastructure we build, the people we develop, the systems we have in place, the broadband that we establish to have for our new working models are going to play a key role in attracting and developing the business in the Philippines. Next slide, please. So here, we all know what our talent's like. We all are very familiar with this. We have close to 750,000 higher education graduates. We have a very high literacy rate, and we have a diverse set of backgrounds of graduates from different parts, not just in business or IT and engineering, but also in medical and allied fields. What we did notice, though, was a significant reduction in medical and healthcare related graduates, and we're looking to see how we can attract more to really grow and build that career for many of our graduates. Okay, next slide. Wanted to share this slide. This slide is, again, is prepared by IBPAP. This is a slide that shows all the different opportunities for the IT BPM sector. But I'd like to focus on the ones on the upper left, which is in orange there. You can see more than just a call center capital of the Philippines. We also have opportunities for growth and for careers in many other areas. In the area of healthcare, we are looking at pharmacovigilance in the pharmacy benefit management. That in itself is a group of business processes that our pharmacists and those in that related field can develop. We're also looking at revenue cycle management, of one of which most of you may have heard about is medical coding, medical billing, claims processing, and what have you. That's another area worth looking at. In provider operations, that's another area. We have many different healthcare providers here in the Philippines. Many healthcare providers that have set up shop in the form of captive as well as third-party players supporting that industry. And of course, the area of utilization management or utilization review. This is for ensuring the efficiencies in hospital administration and management of care. So these are just a few of the opportunities. Later on, I will share a slide that will show close to about 70 plus business process groups that will show you opportunities in the field of healthcare. Now, this slide is a larger slide. It will show you more about the opportunities in many other areas in the IT BPM sector. But for today, we'd like to focus a little bit more on the healthcare segment. So thank you. Next slide, please. This is the slide I was talking about here. It details close to 70 types of business processes being done currently in the Philippines. You have a combination of pharmaceutical processes or pharmacy benefit management on the left side. We have payers. When we say payers, we are referring to health maintenance organization or health insurance organization. We call them HMO in the US. There are many processes that are being done currently in the Philippines, not just with global in-house centers, but also the third-party players. And then to the rightmost, you see providers. When we say providers, we're referring to healthcare providers, whether these are hospitals, these are clinics, these are associations. These are different models of healthcare delivery organizations outsourcing different processes in the Philippines. And lastly, in the bottom, we have technology. And technology in itself in healthcare is such a growing field. This quarantine period, this pandemic that has been with us for a little more than a year, has really made many of our clients even revisit and reimagine how they use technology. Not only technology, but looking at opportunities in the area of data analytics, but also telehealth, telemedicine, also looking at automation and different opportunities to see how they can apply and do more. And that's going to get better over time. We're fairly new in that game for healthcare, but we see that development there to accelerate significantly. So this shows you there are more than 70 plus business processes that are currently being done in the Philippines, and this will continue to grow. This will continue to grow, especially as new working models, new ways to deliver healthcare, and new ways to look at and reimagine healthcare delivery for the client companies that our industry supports. Next slide, please. Here, I'd like to talk a little bit about the talent. If you look at the Philippine healthcare workforce, we're close to approximately 42,000 graduates. This was in 2018. We still have trying to get the data for the others. And we've seen nurse licensure exams at about 9,000 and pharmacists at about 4,000 plus. So we would like to see this grow. We understand if you look at the whole world, and this is just a snapshot of what it looks like, As far as USRNs, as a gauge that we're looking at, Philippines is always up there. We'd like to see that grow. We'd like to see not only USRNs, but all our talent pool in pharmacy, not only nursing, but other healthcare, medical technology, and many others. We'd like to see that grow and develop because there's continuous opportunity in our sector. And one thing we realize, more than just building the volume, is building the quality of the graduates, quality of the skill sets that we're getting from our healthcare talent. And next slide. And related to that, Director Emmy spoke about the National Upskilling and Reskilling Framework. This is what is currently being developed together with IBPAP, our larger organization, to really look at digital health in our case, better domain skills, and also the leadership skills that we need to grow and build our industry. We're looking at specialized skills, in healthcare, whether that's in the area of medical coding, even utilization management and utilization review, whether that's pharmacovigilance. We're also looking at being able to build more digital talent. As you know, healthcare is already looking at not only automation, but even looking at analytics to see how they can do predictive and prescriptive care for many of our clients. And understandably, to grow and build this organization, we need the leadership skills. And that's one area that, with the healthcare BPO industry being in the Philippines for almost 20 years now, or more than 20 years, we have to mature and develop the talent pool and the leadership bench for our industry as a whole. So we're looking at this with IBPAP overseeing for all the BPO industry, the national upskilling and reskilling framework that we have. Next slide, please. Director Emmy talked about this. We talked about talent attraction and development. We did talk about skills development, but we also want to attract talent. And these are the different initiatives being lined up in 2021 with IBPAP. We're looking at ambassadors who can support and build critical mass, build awareness, putting us more in the mainstream of really a career opportunity, developing the talent, attracting the talent. We're looking at schools to be able to look and see how we can new courses, not only in the areas of not only data analytics, but more project management, customer service skills, and so forth. So these are the different areas and leadership initiatives and programs that are being done by IBPAP to see how we can grow and build talent. Next slide, please. Lastly, I'd like to take the opportunity to plug in. It's a very timely, as we're doing this with DICT in their session. We have a June 25 session on talent insights for healthcare, and we encourage many who are interested to participate and join this session. We have our guest speaker from LinkedIn to really talk about the opportunities and what they're seeing from a trend perspective. So I'm plugging this as one of our sessions. We also have a couple of panelists from Conduent and Shearwater, and of course, our moderator, Melville Brooks from Omega Healthcare. So please save the date and look at this session for us on June 25. Next slide, please. Director Emmy did talk about the digital cities. And here I'd like to outline some of these that are being pursued by our national government with the DICT. We are thankful today. We have also Mr. Michael Lim, who is the president of the NICP, who's also part of our session today. So Michael, thank you. I hope we can cover a little bit more about digital cities, because we see this as an opportunity throughout the Philippines and not just in the major cities in Metro Manila, NCR, Metro Cebu, Metro Davao. We think the opportunity really goes, especially with the new working models of working, where we try to take advantage of digitalization and trying to take advantage of a better broadband connection for many of our folks, so we can tap new talent and grow in other parts of the Philippines. Next slide, please. So I'd like to end my slides today with just a snapshot here of the different member companies of HIMAP. As I mentioned, HIMAP, or Health Information Management Association of the Philippines, is a trade association. It's a non-profit organization that's part of the larger IBPAP. We have about close to 60, 65 plus members, and we're really growing and building this. We thank you for we thank our members who've always been there, and many of them are with us today to share their experiences, to share their insights. I'm very thankful for that, for them here today. So I'd like to end my short update here, presentation to everyone here with a word of thanks and gratitude to our member companies. Many of them are here today to contribute. Many of them are always there to support the healthcare agenda, to be able to grow healthcare BPO in the Philippines. So on that note, I'd like to say thank you, and I'll turn it over back to Kathy. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger. Such an insightful introduction. I know that we have a very packed agenda for today, so let's get into the first segment of our discussion this morning. This is our business leaders insight, and the moderator for this segment is the country head of IQVIA Solutions Operations Center Philippines, and he's also one of the founding members of the Analytics Association of the Philippines, and served in the board of trustees as the external relations and marketing chair. He's also a board member of HIMAP, co-chair of the Capability Development Committee, and leads the Communications Committee. Please welcome Mr. Carlo Panti.
Thank you very much, Kathy. Good morning, everyone, and very good. Going back to Roger's intro, very good overview of how the evolution, how the HIMS industry evolved and growing. And as you detailed, Sir Roger, it's actually still growing and evolving, but it's getting bigger and better, right? As you described. I should know because I started my career as well in this industry. Actually, Sarah and I started our careers supporting providers and payers in the past. But anyways, again, pleasant morning to everyone, and I hope you're all doing well and staying healthy. I know you're excited to hear about the opportunities. So let's get onto it and kickstart the first segment to hear our business leaders' insights. For first speaker, he is a board-certified physician who graduated from the UP College of Medicine's Intermed program. And since graduation, he has devoted his career to the healthcare BPO industry, where he has been active for the last 22 years. To talk about the different careers in the healthcare industry, let us all welcome the Senior Director for Clinical Revenue Integrity at Conifer Health Solutions Global Business Center, Dr. Peter Edu. Doc Edu.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Yeah, good morning. So I would like to start my presentation. And I will be discussing career options for healthcare graduates in the Philippine healthcare BPO industry. Next slide, please. So basically, I'll just be mentioning all of the different opportunities for healthcare graduates and career shifters in the health information management industry. I group them into four broad categories, which are pretty much arbitrary, but they make sense. So first group of careers are related to the HIM or medical records. Second group of careers are in health insurance. Then we have clinical nursing, and then we have the careers in revenue cycle management, which is, of course, my field of expertise. So I'll be touching on a couple of the opportunities in RCM as we move forward. So for medical records, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with medical transcription. Then there's patient intake. So patient intake has to do with the entering of the patient information into the medical record system or into the hospital's financial system at the front office level, right? So that they also, many of them are also involved in initial eligibility verification for the patients. Then chart analysis, those are the teams that ensure that upon discharge from the hospital, the medical records are complete. And if there's any missing medical records, they're the ones who run after the providers that have not yet finished their medical records or their documents. And then for health insurance, we have underwriting, which is checking for eligibility for the different payer plans. And then there's also pre-authorization and utilization review, which is reviewing basically whether the provider's requested procedures are part of the patient's plan. And then medical record summaries. For clinical nursing, there are also USRNs who do case management. They talk to the patients. They make sure that the patient care that's ordered is also is actually done on the patient. And then revenue cycle management. So we have a medical billing and collections and denial. So these are the processes where the bills are consolidated and validated before they are sent over to the insurance provider. And then once they've already been sent to the insurance provider after some time, the collections team will follow up those payments from the payers. Denials management are the teams that actually work on the denials if the insurance found problems with the medical bills that were sent over to them. And then we also have medical coding, revenue integrity, and CDI, which I will discuss in greater detail in the next few slides. So first, let's start with medical coding. Medical coding is the process of translating in the diagnosis and procedures found in the medical record into alphanumeric codes that are accepted by the insurance company. So these are the basis of the payment for either the hospitals or the healthcare providers themselves. For educational requirement, healthcare degree is not required, but it's actually obviously a good advantage because you will need to be able to understand the details found in the medical record in order to find the procedures and the diagnosis there. There are industry certifications required for medical coders. So we have the AATC and the HIMA certifications, which are actually available locally here in the Philippines, either as paper exams or online exams by Pearson. And then skills required, obviously you need to have attention to detail because you will be reading medical records. And then you need to have critical thinking and an understanding of the clinical context behind what's actually written in the chart. All right. The next group of career opportunities are in revenue integrity. So these are the processes that ensure that the charges billed to the insurance company are correct, specifically those that are auto-coded. So those procedures or laboratory tests or supplies that are not coded by medical coders, but are coded by the software, they need to be checked. And so the revenue integrity teams are those that do these checking. There's also scheduled audits for high-risk procedures. That's what they do. Educational requirement, again, you don't really need to have a healthcare degree, but since you will be working on understanding what's in the medical record or what's in the chart to confirm if the bills are correct, it's obviously an advantage. Coding certification is not required for revenue integrity, but obviously it'll get you a bigger chance of landing a job because coding knowledge is also used in the revenue integrity roles. And then skills required is similar to medical coding. So you will need to have good attention to detail in order to find the supplies and the laboratory procedures that are done in the chart and to be able to code them or ensure that they are actually billed correctly to the insurance provider. The third one is clinical documentation improvement or clinical documentation integrity is what it's called now. So this is relatively new in the Philippines. Usually in the States, nurses are the ones that do this, but since there are a lot of nurses here in the Philippines and even doctors that are willing to do non-clinical work, the CDI has been started in some of the companies in the Philippines. So what does CDI do? These are the teams that check the patient records in real time. So this is done while the patient is still admitted in the hospital. They check the medical records for opportunities to increase the specificity and accuracy of the documentation. So in other words, they make sure that the diagnoses written by the doctors are the most specific for the patient's actual condition. So instead of just writing heart failure, they'll see if the patient meets the criteria for systolic heart failure or diastolic heart failure, something like that, so that it makes more sense for the patient's clinical picture to be really reflected in the chart or in the medical record. It promotes accuracy and completeness of the conditions and procedures. Obviously, it improves the quality of patient care because if you have more specificity in the chart, that's going to be beneficial to all the doctors that contribute to the patient's care. And it also increases the facility insurance payment. So the payment of the hospitals in the States is actually based on the specificity of the diagnoses that are documented. This is one task where healthcare background is required. As I mentioned earlier, most people that do this in the States are actually nurses. There have a lot of foreign medical doctors actually doing this in the States as well. So it's a requirement to have a healthcare degree. As far as industry certifications, coding knowledge obviously will be beneficial. There are also CDI specific certifications. You can have the CDIP certification taken here in the Philippines with AHIMA. CCDS, I'm not sure if that's already available locally, but CDIP can be taken. It's not required, but it's definitely an advantage if you have the CDI certification for a CDI role locally. And then skills required, similar to medical coding, but greater emphasis on understanding clinical context in the medical record, just because that's really your job as a CDI specialist, right? So, so those three, revenue cycle management, particularly coding, revenue integrity, and CDI, they're all intertwined. They're related to each other, but different skill sets are required for each type of career opportunity for these tasks. And that's it actually. I just want to promote current openings. I'm actually with Guanifer Global Business Center, which is a subsidiary of Tenet Global Business Center. And these are the links for our open opportunities for both Tenet and Guanifer GBC. And thank you so much for this opportunity to be able to share HIM opportunities, particularly in revenue cycle management and coding and revenue integrity and CDI. That's it. Thank you.
Very insightful, Doc Peter, and very informative. Thank you for detailing the requirements and certification needed. Also, you gave a very good overview of what to expect for the different roles. Bottom line is there are lots of opportunities for our healthcare graduates.
Yes.
So, yeah, stay put. We will call you back for the panel discussion.
No problem. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. If you got excited with Doc Peter's presentation about the opportunities today, I'm sure you'll also be as excited hearing about emerging opportunities as well. This is what our second speaker will focus on next, where he has over 15 years of executive experience fostering profitable growth in multiple lines of businesses. He co-founded Visaya back in 2006 and grew the business from a traditional contact center into a knowledge process outsourcing firm with specialties in education, logistics, finance, telco, and healthcare verticals. To provide his insights on emerging business and career opportunities, let's all welcome the Vice President of Visaya Knowledge Process Outsourcing Corporation, Mr. Julian Valenzuela. Julian?
Good morning, Carlo, and I hope you guys can hear me. It's a pleasure to be here. All right, I have a quick presentation as well. It's perfect that I go right behind Peter, who was able to explain, what these roles really are and what's required to do these roles. I'm here to talk about emerging business and job opportunities at Visaya Knowledge Process Outsourcing Corporation, as well as what's generally available in the HIMS space today. I will also show a little bit about what to expect when you're actually applying. Let me begin with a personal story. I actually grew up in California. I went to school in California, elementary, high school, college, and I never thought about being in the Philippines, actually. But back in 2007, my father and I made the life-changing decision to open up Visaya here in the Philippines. And I've never regretted it since. We started with 12 employees and we grew to about a peak of 800. And we have more plans for growth. And I don't regret it. The reason for that is, we believe in the Filipino. We have great Philippine talent. It is world-class. And the truth of the matter is you don't have to go abroad in order to have a successful and rewarding career. You can have that career right here in the Philippines. And I'm hoping to share this with you. The best example of that, and in the interest of time, I won't go through the entire timeline, but the best example of the kind of success and growth that you can have in a healthcare career here in the Philippines is during the pandemic, Visaya actually grew by 13%. So it shows the resilience of the industry, and it shows also the stability when it comes to having a job in the healthcare information management space. Next slide. So some of the emerging business trends over the course of the last 12 months, I guess first is really the digital health platforms. So Roger alluded to this earlier, where the pandemic has actually forced a lot of people to avoid going out of their homes. So therefore, a lot of consumers, especially in the United States, are accessing their healthcare in the digital space. The second is telemedicine. And so much like the digital platforms, most patients actually try to call their doctors and their nurses before actually going to the hospital. So we've seen lots of growth in the telemedicine space. Third is the clinical document improvement space. And that one has also increasing demand in offshoring. So this was done mostly in the United States prior to the pandemic. But in the last 12 months, we've seen lots of growth in the clinical document improvement space. Fourth is largely due to the fact that people are avoiding the large hospitals. They don't want to go to the large institutions where you could get COVID. And so what's happening is if you are forced to actually physically go to a doctor, the preference is to go to doctors groups and specialty clinics. And then the fifth trend is actually in terms of our payers. So obviously the pandemic has spurred demand with the insured population. And so members of our insurance clients have actually grown, and it is a strong business today. Next slide. So how does that actually translate into jobs? And Peter explained for us exactly what to expect when applying for these jobs and what kind of roles they actually are. So in our healthcare tower, all of the jobs that Peter explained are actually available today. So in practice management, we have utilization review and clinical case review. In medical coding and quality audit, this is probably the toughest job to get because of the skills required as well as the certification required. But if you can get the certification, this probably has the highest salary in terms of entry level. So medical coding and quality audit is very much in demand today. The third is claims and payment management. And so medical billing, like what Peter explained, is making sure that you actually process the claim on behalf of the patients in order to get paid out, right? So that's with the insurance companies or with the US government through Medicare and Medicaid. The fourth line of business is actually clinical document improvement. And we've actually seen lots of growth in this, especially with the medical record retrieval specialists. This is a very interesting role because you actually don't need to have a medical background for this particular role. It is a voice program, and you're actually calling on practices in the United States to retrieve the record. And we retrieve that record so that we can turn around and code the record and file it for a claim. The fifth line of business is actually telehealth. And so This one requires a clinician experience. In fact, a US RN is actually a plus because you're actually speaking to patients directly, especially in the chronic care management nurses space, as well as the telemedicine nurses space. So this one is really bedside manner is a plus, even if you're doing it over the phone. And then lastly is actually the clinical specialty. So this is data collection. But in terms of pharmacy and help desk, we're actually working on a very large project that is ramping right now. And we're hiring pharmacy nurses, and you're actually taking in orders from patients in order to fulfill their medical needs in terms of their prescription. So these jobs are all available today, but since it's a career seminar, I also thought it would be important to share, what to expect and how to go about getting these jobs. So very quickly, every recruit goes through 4 stages. The pre-screening is actually going through the resume, making sure you have the right skill sets and qualifications for the job. Second stage is screening, where you go through written exams, practical skills tests, especially for the coders. You have to go through the coding tests. And of course, you go through the interview process. It's very normal to go through an HR interview as well as the hiring manager's interview. And then the third stage is pre-employment requirements. So this is where you go through the background check, you go through drug testing, and everybody has to submit their pre-employment documents. And then the last stage is actually onboarding. So if you're lucky enough to get one of these jobs, you will be presented with a job offer. We'll explain exactly what is expected of you for the role. You go through the new employee orientation, and of course, you have to sign all of the training and non-disclosure agreements. And then once you're actually hired, being in the healthcare information management space means that you never stop learning. You have to keep on improving yourself in the healthcare space. It's a very dynamic industry, like what Roger explained. And in order to do that, we have 2 tools in Visaya. First is career pathing, and where we actually speak to each of our employees and try to figure out where you guys want to be in the next 3 to 5 years in terms of your career, right? So how do you get from rank and file into a management position? And we have a very good program for this. In fact, in 2019, we won the Philippines Best Employee Brand Award. And then the second tool that we have is the Visaya Influence Program. So this is where we have our traditional career development program. We go through training. If you are a medical coder, for example, we make sure you go through the latest updates in training, as well as the annual certification process. And the next slide. I end with this, what's important with working in a Philippine healthcare information management space is to be satisfied, to be in an industry where it's very tough. There's a lot of demands. It's many, many hours of work. It's not the traditional 8 hours of work, but it can be very rewarding. And, with all of the initiatives that we have as a Filipino-owned and Filipino-proud company in terms of loyalty, recognition, rewards, in terms of outreach programs, in terms of all the career development programs that we have, Visaya has actually been able to create an industry-leading retention program. And the reality of it is because we have a culture of malasakit, we have a culture of being Filipino-owned and Filipino-proud, this is an industry where I welcome all of you to find this career. Right? It's been very rewarding over the last 14 years, and I encourage all of you to take the next step and apply. So thank you very much for your time today. I'm looking forward to your questions and answers.
Thank you very much, Julian. And I love how you ended with your employee satisfaction metrics and actually lots of best practices on how you're taking care of your team. Also highlighting the increasing adoption of digital health platforms and of telemedicine, because it's happening not just in the US, but also here in the Philippines, actually everywhere, right? It's happening around the globe.
Absolutely.
So we want to hear more about this, how this will impact our growth prospects in our panel discussion later, Julian. Okay. For now, let me introduce you to our third speaker who will showcase another side of the HIMS industry, talking about the emerging careers in pharma and clinical research. He has 20 years of experience in the clinical research industry, taking on various roles from general manager, clinical research manager, Regional Business Development Manager, Country Manager, and Clinical Trial Monitoring for the pharmaceutical companies and related industries. To introduce you to the different careers in the pharma and clinical research, let us all welcome the General Manager of Pivot and the President of the Philippine Clinical Research Professionals Incorporated, Mr. Rodmar Pulido. Morning, Rodmar.
Thank you. Hi, Carlo. Thank you. Thank you, HIMAP and DICT for having us in this having me in this presentation. So it's a bit of dilemma because I need to introduce to you the field as well as the job opportunities, but and squeeze it in 10 minutes. Okay, first slide, please. So our organization is actually an organization of individuals that manage clinical trials. You can look at us in the website. If you have any further questions, go to www.pcrp.org. Next slide, please. So I belong to a CRO, contract research organization called Pivot. It's under the Lopez Group of Companies. We are, I think, one of the two local CROs in the Philippines. Carlo comes from a global CRO, one of the top CROs globally. Next slide, please. So here's now the dilemma. I'll introduce you first with I'll talk more on careers in clinical research rather than in pharma, but they are all together in one field. So I'll discuss what clinical research is. I think everyone is aware now of what we do, because clinical trials is actually you know about clinical trials in vaccines, in COVID vaccines. You've heard of them in the news, and I'm sure you have many questions about them. And in fact, clinical trials is one of the types of clinical research in the field. But the majority of the research that we do is on clinical trials. So what is clinical research? It's a type of research in medicine or healthcare wherein we test medications, drugs, devices, diagnostic products, and treatment regimens. And we want to answer if the vaccine or drug will prevent the disease, treat the disease, diagnose the disease, or relieve symptoms of the disease. So there can be many types of research under clinical research. A majority of entities who do this research belong to pharma companies. Some of them belong to government and academic institutions. So what are the some of the services that we can do under clinical research or fields? You have, can we complete the, please? Okay. One more, please. Thank you. Okay. So we go to preclinical. This is the field wherein you test the drug or the vaccine on animals. And then you go to the next fields, which are testing the drugs or devices or medicines on humans. And there are three fields here. One is managing the trial. So a lot of us in the Philippines are in this field. Then number three, conducting the trial. So there are hospitals here that conduct the trial, or doctors who conduct the trial. I'll tell you more about them later. Then managing the data collected in the trial. It can be collected in the Philippines or collected globally, and doing statistical analysis on the data. And number five, writing the report from the trial. This is a field we call medical writing, but it encompasses not just clinical trials, but other research fields as well, and doing what we call as pharmacovigilance, which I'll explain later. Now, a lot of these fields are not available, unfortunately, in the Philippines, because as you can see, we are still not that active in terms of participating in the entire field of clinical research. But I'll let you know what types of jobs are there globally. So we start with preclinical. You will need people who are good in the lab. You will need animal people because you will be working with testing the drugs on animals. And then you will also need chemists to be able to work on some of the machines used to test drugs. Then we go to clinical trial management. People involved in clinical trial management will be those who manage the trials globally, or manage the trials in a specific country, or manage the trials in individual hospitals. So people who manage the trials in individual hospitals are termed as clinical research associates. That's what a lot of us do in the Philippines. And then there are people who, on the other side, look at quality aspects of the study. They audit the study. We call them auditors, of course. And then we have people who actually do the study. We have here in the Philippines, we have physicians, nurses, pharmacists, and medical technologists. And then we have people, again, who analyze data. We have data managers, statistical programmers, statisticians, and software developers. There's a lot of software development in this field. Unfortunately, that field is found outside of the Philippines. Then we have medical writing and pharmacovigilance, physicians, and safety data specialists. Basically, pharmacovigilance is a field wherein you just simply analyze safety data and report it to regulatory authorities. What are regulatory authorities? Regulatory authorities are the FDA. That's one example of a regulatory authority. It can be the Philippine FDA, it can be the FDA in the United States. Okay, next slide, please. So entry-level jobs in the Philippines. What is in store for you for fresh graduates? If you are a graduate of the health sciences sector, either you're a med tech, you're a nurse, you're a pharmacist, you're a rad tech, you can go into this field. A majority of the people in this field are actually nurses and pharmacists. If you are a life sciences graduate, like myself, I'm a BS microbiology graduate, then you can enter this field. You can be a BS Chem graduate, you can be a BS Biology graduate, and so on and so forth. So what you can enter into would be clinical research associates. So clinical research associates are those who manage clinical trials in the individual hospitals. They do not conduct the trials themselves. Then you have the safety data specialists, like I said, in the pharmacovigilance field. And then you have the people who conduct hospitals in the hospital. So that means you need to apply to the hospital to be able to participate in this field. So you're either the nurse, you're either the pharmacist, you're either the medtech who withdraws blood from participants, or you're either a coordinator, a study coordinator. You just manage the study internally in the hospital together with the physician. And then there's a lot of medical writing jobs in the Philippines, but not really on an entry level because a lot of the requirements here are an MD degree, Doctor of Medicine. And then we have a field here in the Philippines who do statistical programming for studies. So we need a lot of statisticians in this field, not much of data analysis, but to some extent, but more on SAS programming. And then we need a lot of IT people who will manage data coming from clinical trials. And we don't necessarily want them having a health science field, but an IT graduate would be good as well because you will be interfacing with EDC systems, electronic data capture systems, downloading data, and so on and so forth. Okay, next slide, please. So where can you apply? You can go to companies like us and Carlos, for example. We are what we call contract research organizations. You can go to HIMAP member companies. A lot of them are into the pharmacovigilance sector. You can go to hospitals. You can go to government, academia. You can go to the logistics sector because they also participate in this field. They need pharmacists in the logistics sector. Next slide, please. So these are the sample of local companies that are here. A majority of them are multinational companies, global companies, very few local companies in this field. And the HIMAP companies are not listed here, but you can go to the HIMAP website and look for companies that have pharmacovigilance services. Next slide, please. So a lot of the work we do is actually because of trials that come from abroad. So not trials that are conceived in the Philippines. Next slide, please. So a lot of the trials that come here are more into rheumatology and oncology. And this is where a lot of our hospitals participate in conducting these trials. We have currently 12 COVID trials as of 2020, and I think we're getting more this 2021. Next slide, please. Okay, next slide, please. So I think this is my last slide. This is how a clinical trial is started, is conceived, planned, and eventually conducted, and eventually closed. This focuses more on how the clinical trial is panned out in a hospital. So if you are a clinical research associate, you will be managing all of these aspects from the from the hospital side. If you're a project manager for the global trial, for the entire trial in itself, you will be managing it from step one to the last step from, globally. Okay, thank you, Carlo. That's all my.
Thank you, Sir Rodmar. And actually, just to share some trivia, it took me some time before the light bulbs went on, and I was almost literally nosebleeding my first couple of weeks joining IQVIA. So if it seems complex to our audience, it really is. Good thing back then I had some very good subject matter experts in the team to show me around and showcase how we're supporting clinical trials around the world.
Yeah,
And why
Carlo,
our company? Yeah.
Carlo, this is not a field wherein you are actually prepared to enter. It is okay. It is okay. Everyone is. Everyone dives into this field like Carlo and myself without knowing exactly what it is. And
exactly.
And that happens up to now. It's okay. Yeah.
Thank you. So we're gonna segue to our next speaker and to discuss how data science and analytics has now been a common theme among healthcare and life sciences companies nowadays. We have a distinguished analytics practitioner as our fourth speaker. She founded the analytics consulting firm Z-Lift Solutions in 2013 to enable organizations on analytics, starting with a roadmap to implementation and enablement. Graduating with a degree in statistics from the University of the Philippines, she's also the head of learning at For the Woman Foundation, a nonprofit organization providing free training on data science to underprivileged women. Let us all welcome the Vice President of the Analytics Association of the Philippines, my good friend, Ms. Michelle Alarcon. Hello, Michelle.
Hey, Carlo. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So privileged to be here and sharing my knowledge, the rest of the industry, which is the analytics industry, matrixed or overlapping with the healthcare information management industry. So I'm here today to present the future of healthcare analytics, or at least I will try to attempt to give you a rundown of what's been happening in the space of healthcare analytics. I say that because it's constantly evolving, and we have to keep a very close watch on how it's been advancing. And of course, it's these days during the pandemic, it's very relevant to each and every one of us. You don't need to be have been practicing or in the healthcare industry per se to be curious about it, right? So in this context, I would like to just segueing from my fellow speakers earlier. I'm not from the healthcare industry, but I would like to first say why am I here, right? I would like to first introduce the AAP, or the Analytics Association of the Philippines. Just very quickly, our mission is to promote the practice of analytics across data value chain in the Philippines, and of course, the healthcare industry is not exclusive of that. No, so it's obviously very much part of one of the essential and biggest industries that analytics should be supporting. So that means that we are the organization that attempts to create this ecosystem that has to be working with, in the next slide, there's a diagram where we are where we would like to illustrate how we will be building the ecosystem. If you go to the next slide, please. The ecosystem is actually composed of all these different sectors of, from the public sector, the academe, the practitioners, individual practitioners. We would like to make sure that they're all well connected. All the efforts towards upskilling the country in analytics is well orchestrated, very much, planned and organized, such that the supply of analytics workforce later on, which is working with the academy mostly, and those who are training or upskilling within their organizations, they get to meet the demand, or at least be prepared for the demand from the private sector, public sector, and other organizations that we call are, will be analytically mature. So this ecosystem is something that we have started to already put focus on when we founded AAP in 2017. So together with Carlo here, we were part of that, the board of trustees. And in the next slide, my focus is, and why I'm the one speaking today at this, very important career seminar is I am heading the Industry Development Council, which aims to develop industries such as the healthcare industry to become analytically mature, with the end goal, of course, of not just for the sake of getting into analytics, but with the end goal of being able to make data-driven decisions. As you have seen earlier from our speakers, it's not just automation and then making things more efficient for the healthcare sector per se, but how do you make those processes more efficient? How do you make them smarter? How do you make the decisions that come out of those systems be more guided by data, by insights? And therefore, our aim as an Industry Development Council for Healthcare is that we look at each of these capabilities and assets that's defined, as in the reference below. So we would like to advance the healthcare industry as a whole in terms of being analytically mature means that you have achieved certain levels of maturity with the following capabilities. So that's maturity in the data, enterprise, leadership, targets, analytics, professional technology, and analytical techniques. But first, let us define what healthcare analytics is about. So healthcare analytics, and you will just I just took this from Wikipedia because this is there's really a lot of different definitions of healthcare analytics, but just looking at how Wikipedia has tried to sort of simplify it, right? It allows for the examination of patterns in various healthcare data to determine how clinical care can be improved with limiting excessive spending. So examples of data that's being collected are the following. So you have claims cost data, pharmaceutical and R&D data, electronic medical records, patient behavior, and so on. And these may be used for clinical analysis, as was just earlier presented, financial analysis, supply chain analysis, as well as marketing, fraud, and even internal workforce analysis. But it's not just limited to that, because what's more important is for you to determine what the questions are that need answering or problems that need solving. So when we talk about healthcare analytics, it's actually different levels of how deep the questions or how deep the objectives do you need to be, because in the analytics space there is an equivalent or corresponding set of methodologies, approaches, and also algorithms. Maybe you've heard of the terms like machine learning and artificial intelligence, using machine learning. So these are, it all depends on what type of questions or what types of analytics problems you actually want to solve. So just as an illustration, this is from the FMCNA study that they did. And they also, this is just also from the website, but based on the research firm Gartner, when they divide or sort of categorize types of information, how that is processed. So at the top, I don't know if you see that very clearly, it's in gray. You have hindsight, which is basically looking at the rear view mirror to see, to know what happened. So that's important for you to know first what has happened, and then arriving at an insight. And foresight is also different from those two. So starting with a very basic question of, let's say, for example, how many patients went to the hospital last week? That is a form of analytics that we call descriptive analytics. So just describing what has happened, and maybe in the context of, you would like to look at how many patients went to the hospital on a month-on-month basis, maybe same period last year. Maybe you want that context as well, but also maybe allowing yourself to you have to ask if there is also particular reasons why there are sudden peaks or surges in how come patients are being admitted more in certain days of the week, or maybe there's obviously these days we know the answer to that question, right? And then progressing your questions to which patients will go to the hospital next week, and and then hopefully answering the like an optimization question, or should they get an extra treatment to prevent hospitalization? So these particular questions we actually already answering, locally, in the industry. If you go to the next slide, so these are just examples of what types of healthcare analytics we are already applying, no? And then this is, in fact, this is maybe already not recent anymore as we start to progress more on our studies for looking at the DOH data, how come, maybe analyzing further with given those data sets, and we're observing more and more. But as basic, quote unquote, as basic as patient profiling, understanding who we are servicing, if we are in fact getting the right target market, we're hitting that, understanding patient satisfaction, are they happy with healthcare facilities, or it's more important for them to look at the maybe cost efficiencies. Resource optimization, we have also done nurse to patient ratio optimization, because we would need to maximize or optimize the resources that are available to us, particularly having that shortage of healthcare practitioners in certain with certain specialties and specializations. And then last but not the least, applying prescriptive analytics, so strategic network planning, where are, in the pandemic, we were also asked the question like, what would be the most optimal locations for certain maybe tents that will be set up, or maybe facilities that could be repurposed to serve the ones that are more needing of these, they need to have closer the access, no, to the healthcare services. And then in the next slide, it's really more of the future is, the future also depends when we have better healthcare information systems, because that is what captures the data that we use for analytics. But sometimes, because there is that, not sometimes, but nowadays, the technology has evolved such that there is more possibilities and even grander possibilities for you to imagine how you can capture more and more data, such as having the wearables as one of your data collection instruments, and then therefore it just pumps out data sets that can be analyzed on the fly. So with the future is still relies on the technologies for better healthcare information systems. And it doesn't say that we have to wait for that to happen, but right now, even with the data that we're capturing, we still need to be already leveraging on that. So on the next slide, it's just stating that we need a data literate workforce, and also the organizations that need to be analytically mature and make these investments to make this future happen. So just moving on to the next slide, we at the AAP, we would like to stress that it needs you. So more career professionals in this particular space. And if you jump to 2 slides after, we are highlighting that there are different opportunities to start with your your data career. And in the next slide, you will also see that I detail here the analytics competencies that are needed, whether you're starting out with an IT degree, or maybe coming from a statistics background or biology background. These are sort of the competencies needed, but it doesn't mean that one person just has to have this right away. In the next slide, this is what we're trying to achieve at the AAP, which is to build a professional maturity model and identify particularly which competencies you need to be starting with, or will have an expert level of knowledge already coming in, and then the different roles. And last but not the least, I would like to close with this. This is an inspiration. There's been a CHED memorandum that's out in 2013, where the ones that I mentioned earlier, descriptive analytics, predictive and prescriptive analytics, they're already available, should be in your specializations, at least for the IT and business management, business administration courses. So why not take advantage of that, right? So last but not the least, I would like to, of course, promote the AAP. If you want to be part of the data literate workforce, we're working with the DOST and PSHERD and DAP with Project Sparta PH, where we provide free scholarship to actually pursue the chosen pathway that I just showed earlier, and to help create a data literate workforce. So together with me, together with Carla, the Talent Development Council, in fact. And last but not the least, myself, if you want to be part of creating analytical industries with the healthcare industry here, I'm the one who will be contacting you or you'll be contacting us at the aap.ph, and hope that you can join us as we fulfill our mission. Thank you all. Sorry for thanks.
Thank you, Michelle. Always inspiring to hear from you, and you make it sound easy all the time. But yeah, I know there are lots of details that we can talk about as it pertains to careers in analytics within our industry. So let's call back in our business leaders for a quick panel discussion. We definitely would like to hear from you on some of the topics. I know we have questions already from our audience, and actually we gathered a couple of questions. We have a list from the registrants. So calling back in Dr. Peter, Julian, Rodmar, Michelle, if you guys can turn on your cameras as well. Okay, let me go ahead and start with Dr. Peter and Rodmar, and I'm gonna lump some of the questions that we got from the registrants about helping people decide to enter the HIMS industry, and advice on entering the industry without any work experience. I know there are a lot of people who pursued their healthcare and or pharma education to pursue a career in medicine, healthcare, or life sciences. How do you motivate them to explore building their careers in the Philippines HIMS industry instead? Because sometimes we would get a bad rep that we would hear that we're having a hard time entering the medicine, career in medicine, pursuing a career in medicine in the hospital. So mag BPO, Philippine HIMS BPO na lang, right? How do we motivate them to actually start and build their careers in the HIMS industry? So I'm asking Dr. Peter and Rodmar, because they're practitioners in the medical field and in the life sciences field.
Okay, let me start, Carlos. So yeah, that was actually an issue for me because I am a medical doctor, and so when I began my career sometime back, it was it was a dilemma for me because I got a lot of feedback saying sayang naman yung pinag-aralan mo and all that, right? But in my case, it was supposed to be just a temporary thing. I just wanted to get a job, and while I was supposed to be studying for the US boards. But then when I already entered the BPO industry, I found it really, really fulfilling. I actually learned a lot. My first job was not yet in the revenue cycle management. I was doing, it's called medical indexing, where we did read a lot of healthcare journals and all that. And so that was very interesting for me. But yes, for people who don't necessarily like dealing with graveyard shifts and all that, I know that a lot of healthcare professionals were kind of forced into it by their parents. But at some point, they realize it's not a good fit for them. Some people are not really interested in dealing with patients. So you can actually use your healthcare knowledge in the BPO industry, in the office setting, and your education and your knowledge will not have gone to waste. Kasi, and I hope I can speak Tagalog, right? So, kasi you're going to use it. Magagamit mo naman yung knowledge mo. And, it's also very fulfilling because you may not be able to be face-to-face with your patients, but nakikita mo pa rin yung benefit of what you're doing. And it's really helping them reach their healthcare goals. At the same time, I BPO industry careers in general pay better than clinical careers. I'm not to make people leave their hospitals and all that, but it is a fact that the BPO industry does pay better than clinical careers locally.
Thank you, Dr. Peter. And aside from the pay, yes, I think that's also a big plus, no. I think what you highlighted is very important. Yung impact, right? It may be on a different level, but very high pa rin yung impact ng BPO healthcare workers natin because of the data that they handle, the care that they provide, whether it's over the phone or whatnot, right? Thank you, Dr. Peter. What about Rodmar? Doon naman sa mga pharma, you may pharma background. Why should they pursue a career in CROs?
Yeah,
In
I think
companies natin?
you know what our problem is, Carlo, right? Not a lot of people know what we do. The industry is, there's no knowledge of it, even in the pharma sector. Those in the BS Pharm degrees now, the schools now are opening up in this industry. They're trying to integrate it in the courses. Okay, the biggest reward here is number one, you're actually involved in a clinical trial that will eventually benefit a lot of people. For example, you're involved in a COVID vaccine trial, and once you see your vaccine being out there and being given to people, and you were simply a part of that, or you were part of, for example, an oncology trial wherein patients are dying on this disease, there's very little hope for some cancers, for example, and you are able to participate in one of these trials, not simply conducting them, but on the sideline. And I think that's a very huge impact for us in this industry. The fact that we have contributed to the benefit of patients and protecting these patients during the study. I think that's very important to feel in this field. Yeah. Carlo, does that answer my question?
Yeah, definitely. Your first part really answered it. Not a lot of people know about us, right?
Yeah.
Yung CRO in the pharmacovigilance, life sciences. So yeah, it's great that you were able to introduce what etong niche industry natin does for not just the Philippine market but the global market as well. Maybe Julian, since you've really grown Visaya to be a powerhouse in KPO. Can you also answer that? Because I'm sure you've hired some really good people from the healthcare, people with healthcare backgrounds in your company. How have you seen them develop and grow their careers in your company?
Sure. So you're right. Most of our applicants, even in the contact center space, actually were previous nurses. So that's something that's pretty interesting. And I think the reality is with the healthcare space, you have varying degrees of complexity of work. So that certainly there are roles that require, the clinician experience, that require even in-hospital experience. Those are a plus when it comes to our chronic care management nurses. However, there's also roles that you don't need to have healthcare background. A lot of our organizations actually do the training on behalf of our clients to prepare the applicants for the role. One example of that is actually in the medical records retrieval space. So it's a voice role. It's a great role to kind of get your feet wet, get your foot into the door, and learn about what is the medical record, what is the chart, how do we interact with it, and learn how to get into the healthcare space. And oftentimes they can graduate from that role into a more complex role in the future. And the reality of it is we don't sell technology, we don't sell all of these different programs. What all our organizations do is really utilize the human talent. And you have to not stop learning, you have to keep on pushing. And so my suggestion to everybody is just get your foot in the door, and a lot of our organizations will do the training for you.
Love what you said, Julian, and I think highlighting that fact that our industry is definitely for people with healthcare background, they have an edge, but we can also onboard people without healthcare background, and we have extensive training available for them.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So staying with you, Julian, you showcased a good list of best practices, taking care of your employees, especially during the pandemic. Can you describe how challenging it is? It still is challenging, right? Considering that your teams are serving people who were impacted by the pandemic when they are also affected by the pandemic themselves. Can you highlight how Visaya has adapted, adjusted, and evolved during this time?
Yes, absolutely. We actually have two sites, one in the Central Business District in Makati. We're located in Salcedo Village, and we have 3 floors there. And we also have 3 floors in Dumaguete City in Negros Oriental. And so prior to the pandemic, all of our work was on site, and we worked within those 2 facilities. You can imagine now with the pandemic, though, we actually had to facilitate working from home. So we had to put in the social distancing within our office, which automatically meant that we couldn't have 100% on site. We had to make sure that everybody had the hotels and the vans and all of that. But after about a year, what started to happen is that we've profiled a lot of our roles into the work from home space. So we've been able to create and work with our clients on some roles, not all, some roles that can be done at home as long as we had the right technology. So we provide the technology to our employees. We make sure the compliance is still there. And we've made sure that the commute actually, which is where most of the transmission we've noticed is coming from, is removed. So your commute goes from your bed to your home. The reality of it is this pandemic is not yet over, and we have to continue to prepare ourselves for more and more waves. So we are kind of in this posture where we haven't put all our eggs in one basket. We still have some people who are on site, especially for the roles which cannot be done off-site due to compliance concerns. But we also have a great mix in the work from home space.
Thank you very much, Julia. I think you somehow answered a couple of the questions that we got from the chat room and also from the registrants about opportunities for work from home and opportunities in the countryside. So maybe later in our next segment, for our moderator and speakers, maybe you can highlight that as well, that there are lots of opportunities for Philippine BPO, Philippine HIMS BPO careers in the countryside, right? And working from home as well. So moving to Michelle, I know you discussed a lot of what we preach in the AAP, and you showcase how analytics is such a very broad field. Can you zoom in and detail some of the examples you showcased earlier on how you and your team at ZLIFT have helped healthcare and our life sciences companies with their strategies? I think I saw a slide where you listed down some of those things, but can you detail them so our audience can get a better appreciation of analytics in healthcare?
Yeah, sure, Carlo. Actually, it will take me maybe I need an hour to do that, even for a detailed rundown of each of those. But I think also looking at the questions that we are getting, shout out to the Spartans who already took that first big step in starting their analytics careers. But on the use cases of analytics, I would really encourage everyone to start considering it, if not already pursuing it and getting more convinced to take it up, because during these days, I mean, it's just so frustrating that we have just very few analysts in this industry, because it's so impactful. It's so vaccine distribution, for example, that uses analytics, that has to use data at the very least, right? Do you think it is effective for your LGU? Do you think it is, let's also look at it as an aggregate at the government level, right? At the country level. if there was no data, it was no, not even analytics, if there's no proper data to be analyzed, can you imagine that being effectively done and executed, and by each of our municipalities and cities? So that is how impactful it can get. And it doesn't really, to answer some of the questions here, how do you get into it? It's not not having a PhD. That's not what we need. In fact, it's just very, very practical skills of knowing, understanding what data is, and starting out on basic tools like looking at spreadsheets and understanding how to create lists and summarizing and all that. In fact, we at the AAP, we have this project together with PBAD, right? And looking also at working with other organizations, such that we may be able to already start them young, building these data skills, starting with the senior high school na curriculum. So if you are wondering if you are, you're not coming with the right background or career path already for analytics, and you will be shifting to, or you're considering shifting to an analytics career, then by all means, please just either go to Sparta or apply for a scholarship. We're also providing free scholarship at the For the Women Foundation for underprivileged women. But there's so many other resource materials out there that you can participate in, and a lot of our academic partners as well are starting to offer short-term courses, specializations, master's degrees, and even undergrads are on the way. So ang message ko lang po is siguro consider it, and then just take that first step. There is no undergrad right now for analytics, and it is a new field. So for actually every one of us, in fact, we can consider ourselves as career shifters, because this is really a new career, a new field. So wag po kayong matakot, and start to apply.
Pero ang ganda rin ng edge, Michelle, kung halimbawa you're a nurse and then you finish the Sparta training or pharmaca, and then you enrolled in some of the programs. Very, very impactful for their resume.
So the domain knowledge, particularly for healthcare, that really helps a lot.
Absolutely. Okay. Reading some of the questions, siguro this is for everyone. From Sir Antonio Del Carmen from Link IT. Are companies open to accepting working students? Actually, a very valid question. We in the education sector are currently exploring a work and study program to help students who were displaced due to the economic impact of the pandemic. If this is possible, what would be the entry jobs that are available for healthcare and non-healthcare students? Who would like to take that on?
Well, in some of the career paths or tasks that I listed earlier, there are some of them that actually do not require healthcare background or do not even require a degree. Like, say, for example, the chart analysts. There are these tasks are they can be trained from scratch, and so even without an undergrad degree, that those types of jobs, those types of careers can be a starting point for undergrads or even non-healthcare graduates to put their foot in the door in the HIM industry, in the HIM outsourcing industry. I'm not sure about working students. I guess as long as you can manage your time and are able to accomplish your shift and study while working, I guess, as long as there's no conflict, I guess that's something that can be done as well.
Thank you, Doc Peter. Anyone else? Rodmar or Julian? Yeah.
I'm not sure with the working student thing, but our company, Pivot, is actually working with other pharma institutions, schools, for internships. That's what we are doing. We've been contacted, for example, by UST for their internship program. Yes. But in terms of working part-time in the industry, is that a question? Not as a working student, but working part-time? Is that it? No. Or as a part-time working student? Okay, I'm not, I need to cascade this to our group and see if they have that opportunities, yes, and come back to you.
Yeah, in Visaya, we have part-time roles in two roles. One is in CDI and the other is in coding. So you do need to have the accreditation already for it to work, but we do pay on a per chart basis when we go through part-time. And then as far as working students, we encourage it. In fact, if you graduate from your school while you are employed, we actually give a benefit to the graduates. So all they have to do is show their graduation papers and they actually get an incentive for graduating. So we encourage all students, to still apply. You could still get a job. Like Peter mentioned, like I mentioned before, you don't need to have a degree yet to get some of these jobs. And I also wanted to emphasize with the work from home, it is countrywide. So we've been able to hire now, in Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao. We hired coders in Davao just last week. So, the jobs are available.
Yeah.
It's actually expanded the opportunities. I agree. Michelle, you wanted to share too?
No, same. Actually, last year, that was the first ever the first time that I hired people I had not seen face to face. So I hired someone from Davao. I have someone right now working in Bulacan, and two who was working in Cavite, Silang. So totally possible, as long as you can guarantee that you have internet. It's connection for meetings and all that. And data work is, typically it's really offline. But when we do need to consult with our clients, for example, we schedule a Zoom session like this, and then that's it, right? So it's been possible. It's been made possible since 2020, since the pandemic. So yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, Michelle. And I know there are several other HIMAP member companies that are accepting fresh grads and even working students. So maybe we can there's a question in the chat room about opportunities for training or job vacancies. Maybe we can post that later on after the session. So talking to the secretariat. So I know we can go on and discuss this topic further, but unfortunately that's all the time we have for today. So I know you've heard this so many times. Times are changing, healthcare is changing, but one thing's for sure: the Philippines HIMS industry will continue to grow and evolve at the same time. So we will see more complex roles coming our way. So let's all work together to develop the capabilities of our current workforce and our talent pool to support this growing global demand. So with that, I'd like to end our session. Thank you very much for our speakers and panelists. I'd like to turn you back over to Kathy for our next segment. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carlo.
Thank you,
And yes, to all of our guests, panelists, and speakers, thank you. Maraming salamat for all of your insights. It's very encouraging to know which talent and credentials are being entertained in our industry. So to move further along in today's session, we're moving into the second segment of our discussion this morning, and I'd like to introduce the moderator for this segment. He is currently the president of the National ICT Confederation of the Philippines. Please welcome Mr. Mike Lim. Mike?
Thank you, Kathy. I guess, first of all, let me thank Sir Roger Salazar, Ma'am Beng Coronel for having us again. Hello also to Ma'am Emmy from DICT, our ever reliable partner. So I'd like to introduce our speaker for today. Sir JC is a registered nurse working as an operations manager at Alorica, Alabang. He manages the operations process, performance improvement, and operation strategy of the healthcare programs relative to medical and dental insurance accounts. After graduating from nursing back in 2007, he was given an opportunity to work as a CSR for Olorica and then worked his way up to his current role. Let us all welcome Sir JC Ella.
All right, thank you, sir. Hello, everyone. So thanks for having me. I'd like to kick things off by introducing our awesome vision and mission at Olorica. And it is simply making lives better, one interaction at a time, while our mission is to create insanely great customer experiences. So for us, it's always about going the extra mile. And as an organization, that has been our biggest differentiator. Okay, so on the screen, you can also see our company's core values. And I'd like to highlight on the first one, which is be connected. So I believe that a good relationship is the cornerstone of every successful company. And we pride ourselves with building good relationship, not just with our clients, but also with our peers and colleagues, as this is essential for an ideal working environment. And this is also one of the reasons why I stayed for more than a decade in Olorica. All right, so on the next slide, you will see our global footprint. We have presence in North America, Latin America, and the Caribbean, Europe, and of course, Asia Pacific. So we have 100,000 employees with thousands of work-at-home folks, such as myself. We're also present in 14 countries, 12 time zones, and 1 planet, well, at least for now. And here in the Philippines, we have almost 39,000 employees. This is already a significant number, if I may say, but it doesn't stop there. We are continuing to expand and grow. So if you want to become part of Olorica, well, I got you covered later on the next few slides. So next slide is more about Olorica Philippines. So in the middle image of the slide, you can see that we are well spread across the Philippines archipelago, with the biggest concentration in Metro Manila with 10 sites. So on the right side, we have various work type and channel expertise, ranging from customer care, tech support, sales, back office, name it, and we have it. And finally, on the left side, we have a very dynamic vertical expertise. And I'm here to talk about my insanely great journey of 14 years in the healthcare vertical. All right. And so this is me. My name is John Carlo Ella, but my friends call me JC. All right, next slide. So fun fact, I'm half Filipino, half Filipina, but I'm pretty sure you've noticed. So more about me, I graduated from Global City Innovative College with a Bachelor's of Science in Nursing back in 2007. So after graduating, I was given an opportunity to work as a CSR for Olorica. And destiny was very kind to me as I was placed in a healthcare program. So things I learned as a nursing student came in very handy for me. So since day one, I wanted to become a trainer. And so after 2 short years, I got into an apprenticeship program and became a flex trainer, where I was able to work on my apprenticeship, or I was able to work on my craft day in and day out. And it prepared me for my next amazing role. And so shortly thereafter, I was promoted as a product trainer back in 2011. So being a trainer was also an amazing journey for me. I was able to train the next breed of awesome and amazing employees, and it really expanded a lot of my skill set. I immensely enjoyed being a trainer and wanted to do it for a long time. Albeit here in Olorica, you are encouraged to be relentless. So what does that mean? It's all about challenging the status quo, holding yourself in a higher standard, and of course, to continually invite yourself to step up. So after another 2 years, I applied as an operations manager and got promoted. And that was back in 2013. There. So personally, my growth in Olorica has been quite rapid, and it was possible because of the people that I work with, who provided me continuous guidance, and also the culture of connection and helping each other out. But JC, why stay for that long, right? I'll answer that in the next slide. So I'm staying because of all of these. Like what was aforementioned, I'm staying because of the people, the culture, and the growth afforded to me by Alorica. So why is people and culture important, right? So like what motivational speaker Jim Ron mentioned, you are the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. So it's very important that you surround yourself with the right people. And culture for me is also very important because it empowers people to develop their talents and skills. Okay, so, but this is my story. We are excited to hear about yours. If you're interested to be part of the growing Alorica community, you can scan the QR code shown on the screen to learn more about the amazing opportunities we have in store for you. In Alorica, it's very much possible to pursue your passion, showcase your performance, and explore the endless possibilities. So thanks for listening, and keep safe, everyone, and have a great week ahead.
Thank you, Sir JC. I am the average of my 5 closest friends or network. That's very interesting, sir. I'd like to introduce our next speaker. Ma'am Mikey Flores has 27 years of experience. Sorry, let me turn on my video. Sorry. Okay. Ma'am Mikey has 27 years of experience in customer service, 20 years of which has been with Hinduja Global Solutions, handling its prime financial account for 14 years before moving to the healthcare vertical 6 years ago. Currently, Mikey is managing the second largest healthcare account in HGS and has been an integral part of the program's strategic growth. She graduated with a bachelor's degree in communications art from St. Paul College of Manila. Let us all welcome Ma'am Mikey Flores. Ma'am Mikey?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
There you go. So I'll repeat my introduction. Good morning again. Good morning again, everyone. I was saying I would probably be the perfect example of a non-clinician who is thriving and is successful in the healthcare space. I know we always have a notion of, if it's healthcare, you have to be a clinician. I am not a clinician by profession. I am not a nurse. I think you've heard my background. I actually graduated with communication arts. I have 21 years of solid experience in the finance industry. When I joined HGS Philippines, actually, I was handling one of the finance client, which is a big name in the credit card industry in the US. So I handled that for a good 14 years. 6 years ago, it was time for me to move into venture into something very exciting. And it was really exciting. I'll share with you the journey and the experience that I have, pretty much what AC was talking about. Given that I was a finance person, it was very, very new to me. The first week when I actually joined in and I was doing floor walking, I sat down with one of our nurses. So we have nurses in HGS. A big chunk of it in my program, we have around 600 US PHRNs. And we do the nurse triage line. We have the nurse helpline where our nurses, USRN, actually takes in call. They actually entertain customers and they talk about their symptoms, and our nurses assesses them in terms of whether they, and make recommendation on whether they will do home care or they will go to urgent care. That was very impressive for me. And I was very proud that we have the talent. I think it was Julian who was talking about the Filipino talent. It was really very impressive. Hearing our nurses able to communicate and able to assess with confidence, talking with these Americans, and they are able to give very good recommendation in terms of what to do next. Another work that we do is actually pre-authorization. This is where we do clinical review. And one of the notion, I think that I'll break it right now, everybody was mostly talking in English. There will always be a notion that pag taga-call center ka, kailangan magaling ka magsalita, or you have to have a very good excellent communication skills. Yes, it is for some lines of businesses, but we do non-voice and voice. So it is open to everyone. For example, when I was talking about the pre-auth that we were talking about, it's actually our nurses doing clinicals. Again, I was quite impressed. I'm not from the medical field, but to see the nurses or PHRNs going through the different clinicals and assessing and making sense of those clinicals and making recommendation, for example, if this is a clinically or it is medically necessary for the procedure to go through, was quite impressive. Again, for those nurses who are thinking, probably I will not be able to apply my skill, but for works like this, we really need nurses to actually do this. A normal person we cannot train, no matter how we train them, we can probably, but it would take a lot of time for us to train them to do this kind of work. Again, another portion of the healthcare space, and they have been talking about, the other speakers has been talking about it. We also have that portion that does not require clinicians. And these are actually our customer service work, where people gets to answer inquiries about benefits and eligibility, claim status. So again, open, pretty much it's very open also to non-clinicians. Another thing that we do, and we have been talking about the growth, and I will just really affirm what the other speakers has been talking about. I think Roger talked about it, Dr. Peter talked about it, and Julian also talked about it. During the pandemic, we were so scared of it to a certain degree, like what will happen to us? This is our business, and we have to get people back to work, and we have to set them up. And we were scrambling for folks to be working, get connected, work from home was there. But in the healthcare industry, yes, there were pockets of months wherein we saw a decline in a reduction in volume. And it is sometimes driven by the fact that we cannot get people to work from home. But after which you see the growth, and I'm affirming what they have said in the couple of presentation ago, we've actually seen the growth, and we're still growing at this time. So we were able to prove to our clients that we can be successful at the work at home setup. We are able to uphold it, and that was possible because we were able to uphold the data privacy, and we were able to maintain a high level of performance. This in turn strengthened really our relationship with our clients. With that, they are now giving us more opportunity to actually do some more work, diversification in the type of work that they were doing. We're seeing it, and I'm quite sure it's not only HCS. All our colleagues and our brothers and sisters in the BPO industry is seeing that. And this one also has allowed us to diversify in terms of the people that we can reach. I know there was a couple of questions like, are you hiring provincial? Yes, we do. For HCS, for example, we have Metro Manila as the main hub, and then we have Iloilo. And what this work from home setup has opened up for us is that the client have been slowly opening up in terms of the reach, or in terms of the people that we can hire outside of the metro. It might not be for us, and I'm speaking for HCS at this time, like it is graduated in a sense, because we talk about kilometers, how many kilometers away from Iloilo or how many kilometers away from Metro Manila, but it's there and it's opening up. And if we just maintain, again, the data privacy and the level of performance that we are able to deliver, I doubt we can go nationwide. I think, again, it was Julian who was talking about hiring nationwide. So again, reaffirming all that has been said in the past few slides. In a nutshell, because everything has been said, actually, and I'm just really revalidating what they have spoken. In a nutshell, healthcare is a very, very stable program in the BPO industry. We see growth and diversification of work type as we speak right now. And again, it's non-inclusive to clinicians. So again, I invite you all for HCS, we have Facebook and IG. Pretty much in with the Facebook thing. Hindi po kailangan na sobrang galing niyo mag-English. Meron po tayong mga offline work and non-voice work that you can actually apply for. So again, thank you for this opportunity. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the day.
Mike, I think you're on mute, Mike.
Sorry. Thank you, Ma'am Mikey, for the wonderful testimonial. I would like to call back Sir JC for the panel discussion. Hi, Sir JC. There are
Hello.
a couple of questions that have come in, and I believe they apply to the both of you. So I would ask the first question, and then any one of you can take the first crack at it. The best question I found, there was actually a lot, so I had to choose the best ones. What would your advice be for someone who wants to start a successful career in the HIMS industry, like what you just accomplished?
Yeah, I can take that on. So for me, it's all about
Sure.
So
So
for me,
JC first, and then also my Mikey after.
all right. So for me, it's all about focusing on yourself. There's always going to be someone better than you at anything. Like someone else is going to be prettier, or someone else is going to be sexier or more intelligent. But the best thing that you can do is focus on yourself and make yourself your own competition. And being better than who you were yesterday, I think that's the best thing that you can do. And just do your best at any given time. And yeah, and also surround yourself with the right people. It's very important, especially for me, because my driver for anything is affiliation. So I do better at things if I have somebody to do with them, and it's going to be a better experience if you're going to be doing it with the right people. Sometimes there are going to be people or colleagues that's going to give you a hard time or difficult, but sometimes you need people like that to push you to be a better version of who you are. So you could, you also have to be able to embrace that. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay. For me, I hope you can hear me, guys.
Yes, we can hear you, ma'am.
Yeah, I think the first thing is don't be scared to apply for these openings. There's a lot of portals. All of the call centers, all of the BPOs, they have their own portals. Please visit those. Don't be scared to. I think that's the first step. Again, I want to break the notion that if it's a healthcare, you have to be a clinician. You don't have to be a clinician. There are a lot of work that is open, or types of work that you can apply for. And then don't worry. We also have voice and non-voice. I said that also, and we provide a lot of training programs. For HCS, for example, also for career advancement, we actually do have a nursing academy for those PHRNs who really want to pursue their USRNs. We actually sponsor their review and get their license for them. So those are the things that can be opened up. So first step really is for you guys to try applying. And don't be scared to apply. We're very much embracing of anybody who wants to really apply and start a career.
All right, thank you, Mikey. I have another question. Why should the career in health information management be considered if someone is already a nurse, or even if it's a totally different career? How would it be different from what they do now to what they're going to be doing if they join HIMS?
Yep, I'll take that for now. For example, for the nurses, as I've said in my testimonial, right, there are really work that are going to be very much parallel with what you do in the hospital. It might not be the hospital setting, but the skills that you have learned in school, and even in the hospital when you do your internship, you can still apply for it. And then another thing is, again, I go back to training. We train people, we set you up for success. I think that's, again, an underlying mantra for all the BPO. We don't put you out there, without proper training. So we do those trainings. It can still be very fruitful for you. We have seen nurses, PHRN, who started out as PHRN, did the review, was part of our nursing academy, got their USRN license, and they have actually progressed very well in the corporate ladder from starting off as a CSR, like JC was talking about how he has progressed in his career, right? So it's there for the taking again. So there is a career in the healthcare industry and the BPO industry for the clinician and non-clinician, and even the career shifters, because again, training is provided for you guys.
Yeah, and
Thank you,
just to
Ma'am Mikey.
add,
Sir JC, yes, go ahead, please.
yes, just to piggyback on what Miss Mikey mentioned. So apart from the training, there's also, career pathing. Like for Lorica, we have apprenticeship programs really dependent on what you want to be promoted as. Eventually, like for me, I wanted to become a trainer. So after becoming a CSR, I did apprenticeship program as a flex trainer. And for example, you want to become a quality auditor, you can be a QA apprentice, or if you want to become a team manager someday, you can be a team manager apprentice. So it's an apprenticeship program that kind of set you up for success. It kind of sets the stage to make sure that you're going to be successful in your chosen career or role in the healthcare industry. So there you have it.
Thank you, Sir JC. Basically, anyone can succeed as long as you put work into it, put your heart and work into it. Okay, a final question for both of you. Are there any tips for an undergrad to start in the HIMS industry? And what would the careers in demand be right now for the HIMS industry, both for a career shifter or even just an undergrad student?
Undergrad, for example, there are certain lines of businesses that would not require for a graduate. So customer service, some of the basic things that does not require, for example, the skill of a clinician or somebody who is a graduate. So we have that in HCS. We do hire some undergrads. We also have embedded in HCS a program we're in for undergrads also moving forward. If you want to finish your college and you want to earn your degree again, we help you out in getting that degree. So again, that's very open in terms of your ability to grow again with us. I think the very basic thing again is just open all those portals of the different call centers of all the BPO industry. All the requirements are there. We have openings. Where we're going right now, we are really aggressively hiring as we speak right now. I'm just talking about HCS at this point. We need nurses. We need USRNs, both the SRNs and PHRNs. And there's a lot of need also of non-clinician. You can be whatever your background is, whether you're IT, nursing, communication arts, and what have you can apply for it. We are hiring at this point. We're growing, as I've said in my testimonial. There's so much growth that we're really seeing.
Sir JC?
Yep. So having a healthcare degree is absolutely something that helps with understanding the material. Although in Alorica, we also provide you the tools for you to be successful, and you can continue to flourish in your career as you see more roles available. So being an undergrad is a non-issue for us as well, because for most of the programs in Alorica, we do customer service programs, and like what was mentioned earlier, there's training, there's going to be apprenticeship programs. And the first step really is just to, apply for the role, like what Ms. Mikey mentioned. And after that, once you make it, there's going to be a lot of help available to make sure that you're going to be successful at what you do.
Thank you, Sir JC. Your stories are indeed very inspiring, and we hope that our audience will be able to get some tips to make it as a guide for them to be future leaders one day. Thank you, Sir Ma'am Mikey and Sir JC. I'd like to turn it over to Ma'am Kathy for the next segment. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mike, JC, and Mikey for the discussion. Indeed, marami talagang open positions in the HIMS industry that we encourage everyone, the participants, to check out the local job boards and the companies also that are posting their vacancies. So in all different levels and different backgrounds. So at this point, we've come to the conclusion of our session this morning. I know we went a little over time, but I want to introduce to you our last speaker, who is a very respected pillar of our industry, Ms. Beng Coronel to do the closing, but just a little bit of information and background about Ms. Beng. She co-founded Point West Technologies Corporation in January 2003, which is a 100% Filipino-owned IT BPM services company. And they started with 9 employees, having a vision of creating a Philippine icon for the IT BPM industry that will showcase our world-class Filipino talent. Ms. Beng, I'm very proud to be associated with you, even just by the school that you graduated from. She graduated from the University of Santo Tomas with a degree in chemical engineering. And she's been also recognized in the USD Engineering Hall of Fame for her contributions to the industry. And she's a very big proponent and advocate in promoting the Filipino talent worldwide, even participating in a lot of exhibitions outside of the country to represent all of us. So Ms. Beng, thank you, and on to you.
Yeah, thanks, Kathy. So it has been another productive session. Thanks to all our guests and speakers that have really provided us with the much needed information pertaining to our industry and its requirements. As stated by one of the speakers, awareness of our industry is a major challenge that we need to hurdle. So I hope this particular session is a step towards creating that awareness. We have really come a long way from our early days of simply providing medical transcription. We now provide higher value services that are very much in demand. In fact, Roger mentioned around 70 roles or healthcare career posts as of the last count. We have heard from our various speakers that opportunities are unlimited. So unli is the word. And that's true for both business as well as career. So on the business side, we need to know the domain with all its process requirements so that we can introduce innovation as well as provide support through the use of technology and resources. In terms of careers, as our speakers had pointed out, there are opportunities that are open even if you are not graduates of medical or allied medical courses. And we have several members waiting for you to apply. So HIMAP, with the support from the government and academe, has embarked on several learning and development programs led by its Capability Development Committee headed by Sarah and assisted by Carlo. Whether you are starting out on a career, reskilling as a result of a career shift, or simply upskilling, we have programs for you. The opportunities exist for everyone willing to learn. That's the operative word, willing to learn and willing to help. There's pride in being a part of our industry. I remember hearing one of our pharmacists supporting one of the pharmacy benefit management companies in the US. According to her, she always gives her best in her work, since the health and life of 1 out of 3 Americans depend on the quality and timeliness of her deliverables. So join our industry as we tell the whole world that we not only are good in providing the most caring nurses working at the various hospitals and clinics around the world, we provide the best minds and resources that support the healthcare information management needed by the global healthcare industry. Again, thanks to our speakers, moderators, and to our sponsors. Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Beng. And to officially close our career seminar today, we express our deepest gratitude to our friends in the government and private sector, and to all the guests who attended today. We look forward to your support for the greater growth of our industry in the countryside. Friends in the academe, thank you for honing our future talents. Thank you for your relentless work. Maraming salamat po. And please do go ahead and like the official Facebook page of the ICT Industry Development Bureau and the Healthcare Information Management Association of the Philippines, or HIMAP Facebook page, and that will be flashed in the succeeding slides. There you go. Thank you, everyone, and we do hope that everybody stays safe, and we look forward to seeing you in our future events. Thank you. This has been Kathy, your host. Good day.